Well, thank you for meeting with us today, Mr. Wing.
Of course.
So, managing employees' performance. What's that all about?
In its essence, it's about ensuring our employees' work and outputs align with our company's interests. And it really boils down to three different parts. Well, firstly, we set the expectations as a goal for our employees. And then secondly, we just monitor them, right? We evaluate their performance over a period of time. And then thirdly, we provide the feedback that's needed for them to grow.
So, what activities are involved in performance management?
Well, as I've already alluded to in my previous answer, firstly, once you've defined and outlined the goals for your organization, you then have to implement them for your employees and establish them. We essentially turn the goals of the corporation into the personal goals of our employees. And then we provide support for our employees and provide regular performance feedback for them on a timely manner. And from a managerial standpoint, you then monitor the employees' performance over a certain period of time. You then provide the feedback to the employee and you outline benefits and consequences to the employee should they exceed the expectations or should they fall below the expectations.
You've mentioned before how there are three different types of management systems for measuring performance. Could you just reiterate what those are for our audience?
So typically there are three different strategies that companies can use to evaluate performance on a broader scale. There's the strategic purpose, which is used to help our company achieve its goals. And then there's the administrative purpose, which is where we take the data we obtain to evaluate day-to-day operations, such as salary, pay, benefits, etc. And thirdly, we use it for developmental skills. And this is really more so as a benefit to our employees, because the feedback that we provide to them after a performance feedback session is really meant for their development, for their skills and their knowledge as employees in our workforce.
Is everything okay?
It's being handled.
Okay then. Back to performance management. What are the criteria for measuring how effective your performance management system really is?
We have 5 different criteria, actually. And first and foremost, it should just fit in our company's strategy. And if it doesn't align with our goals or our interests as a company or the goals and interests of our employees, well, then it doesn't really meet that criteria. And secondly, it has to be valid. Does it actually provide us performance data that we can use and implement in our company? Or does it simply provide us data that we just don't need? And thirdly is how consistent. Because if your performance management system is not reliably and consistently providing you data that you can use, then it's not meeting that criteria. And fourthly, it has to be acceptable. The performance management system has its own set of standards it must meet in order for it to be accepted as data we can actually use. And lastly, it has to be specific. If the data that you're obtaining from your performance management system is not specific data that your employees and managers can use to improve their output, improve their production, etc., well, then they're not going to be able to use that, and it does not therefore meet the criteria.
What are your methods for measuring performance?
Well, one way is you can compare and contrast your employees, ranking them as they were. But that requires so much time and resources that it's really just not that beneficial. Another way is to compare an employee's attributes. So how does this employee do in teamwork? How does this employee do in communication? How does this employee do in problem solving? And from there you can describe to them different levels of attributes for each. Another way to do this is to compare and rate your employees' attitudes, their behavior. And that's fairly difficult to do in most workplaces and very difficult to try to give them a fair and unbiased rating based on their behavior. So in that case, I would say those are less common that we use in our workforce. An easier way you can measure employees is based off their performance, right? Something tangible, something physical that you can measure. So for example, how has this employee improved in the past quarter? Has their production improved in the past quarter? How about their quality? Has that improved in the past quarter? Things along that side that you can measure and you can actually see a change and improvement and stuff like that. And as I've already kind of hinted to in my previous point, quality. Now, we don't necessarily use quality as in like the level of quality that, or work of quality that employees give in their production. We're more so thinking quality along the lines of how the job itself and the nature of the job can be improved and quality can be more emphasized in that job rather than the specific employee's ability to perform that job, if that makes sense. It's about focusing on the job's aspect of quality rather than the employee's ability to, from that job, produce, if that makes sense.
What are the different types of sources in measuring performance?
So we actually use a 360-degree performance appraisal, where managers don't just evaluate their employees, but employees also evaluate managers. Customers also evaluate employees because they're in direct connection to the employees, etc., etc. And so every single moving part within the bigger, larger puzzle that is a corporation evaluates each other and grows as a corporation, as feedback reasons. Excuse me.
Are you sure that everything is all right?
We should be. As long as you're with me, we'll be fine, though.
You say so. What types of errors are there in performance management, if there are any?
I would say that bias is the most common. How biased are you toward a certain employee? Or how biased are you towards a certain employee's attribute? That would unfairly balance, improve on their performance evaluation, or maybe lead to an unfair evaluation on their part. So yeah, I would say just bias is the biggest form of unfair evaluation within the workforce.
How do you give performance feedback?
Well, feedback for performance should be regular and often. The more often and more common it is, the more accepted it is, and not just that, but the more beneficial it will be to your company. And while conducting the interview for the feedback session, what the manager should keep in mind and should keep as the primary focus are 3 different points that the employee could then take and move forward with. With the first one being, what has the employee learned since the previous performance evaluation feedback session, and also what do they plan on learning moving forward. And then the second part would be, what has the employee developed since the previous feedback session, and what does the employee plan on developing for future reference? And then I guess the third one would be any areas of improvement moving forward. Feedback maybe specifically for managers, just things like that moving forward, what the future is going to be looking like, what the next steps are, if you want to put it that way.
So I have 2 more questions to ask for you today, but I'll save number 9 for the last one. We'll just skip right to question 10. What are some legal and ethical issues that are affecting performance management right now?
Lawsuits are usually the biggest one. Yeah, lawsuits. That could cover a wide range of reasons for why lawsuits are. That could be a lawsuit over, discrimination, or that can be a lawsuit over an unjust dismissal from the job. So there are a multitude of reasons for why, but yeah, lawsuits are the biggest one. And technology has been really up and coming when it comes to those type of problems, especially in the field of AI. Past several years, AI has exploded, and that's really the biggest problem that we have as a corporation, and more so administrative wise, because we really want to ensure that our employees' privacy is protected. So yeah, technology has been another problem that we're debating, and we're getting through that. We're walking ourselves through that one right now.
That doesn't sound like everything's just all right.
Yeah, we'll be fine. We should be. Our company recently has received a lot of threats, so this is really just nothing new, in my opinion.
You're referring to the recent controversy over your company publicly endorsing this mysterious bat vigilante roaming our streets. Is that correct?
Well, a lot of that criticism is from people like the mob, the mafia, and other criminal organizations, because they just hate the idea of a wealthy company backing up the dismantling of their organizations.
Well, for me personally, and I'm sure many of our viewers as well, we couldn't possibly imagine the idea of endorsing publicly a rogue vigilante roaming our streets like a criminal, no different than the other criminals. I mean, wouldn't you have to agree, Mr. Wayne?
Well, it's more than just supporting a vigilante. It's about sending a message.
Which is?
That there will always be good people fighting against the darkness, against evil. And this bat vigilante is just another way to remind the people of that. A symbol, if you want to put it that way.
Well, that's definitely interesting. But now we're on to our final question, Mr. Wayne. When facing problems with employee performance, what are the types of solutions that you use that lead to improvement in your employees' performance?
Well, there are multiple reasons why employee performance can be down. And these can be seen in 4 different categories that I like to put it in for personally. Number 1 is a lack of ability. Number 2 would be a lack of motivation. Number 3 would be a lack of both. And number 4 is a whole different breed, but that would be a lack of neither. They have both ability and motivation. So now I'll kind of dive into what each of those are. So with the lack of ability, what's going on? You need to come with me right now. This is the safe room. You two stay here until I get back. Do not open the door for anyone. What is going on? Just cut the camera. Cut the camera. What was that? Did you hear that? Oh, there it is again. Is it Bruce Wayne? Oh. We can't take no hostages. Turn that camera off! We can't take any hostages. I'll take care of them. What was that? I'll check on it.
Are you guys okay?
Yeah, we're okay.
I need to get you two out of here. Will you be able to keep up?
Yeah, I think so.
The auxiliary power's back on. We need to go, and we need to go now.
It's down there!
Get in the corner. Let's go. Keep up. Let's go. Hide behind there. Hide. Let's go.
You know, I should probably thank you.
You don't have to thank me.
Where's Bruce Wayne?
He's a little occupied right now.
Well, we were interviewing Bruce Wayne, and then that happened, you know. But we just had one more question, and then the interview would have been done. You know, it was about the 4 different types of people.
People aren't that complicated, kid. There are 4 types of people. There are those who lack ability. They can't, and they won't. And then there are those who lack motivation. They're the ones we should be fighting against. The ones we should be giving incentive to. And then there are those who lack both. Who neither have the ability and wouldn't care less. Those are the people who are dangerous. Those are the people that we need to fight against. And then there are those who lack neither. The heroes who stand up for justice, who stand up for what is right. Now, you said you were interviewing Bruce Wayne, but I have a question for you now.
What is it?
Which one are you?
Wait, where'd he go? Look, there he is. People are never going to believe this.
Well, there you have it. A summary of Chapter 10 of Fundamentals of Human Resource Management. And while this isn't the presentation you were expecting, this is certainly the presentation you deserve. Thank you for watching.